Hey everybody. We're back. With more great Ace Attorney Chronicles 2 Resolve! Hope everyone's been having a good week so far. It's almost over. It's almost over. Anyway, last we left off, we had just started the trial of the of the return of the great departed soul. It's too many words in a title. Oh no, a massive snowstorm for Ronan, be safe. Think warm thoughts, like this defendant's antechamber. I can't believe it's been 6 months since I was last allowed to work in court. And now here I am, back at the Old Bailey. Ah, Mr. Naruhodo! Good morning, Professor Harebrayne. I don't understand! It doesn't make any sense! The atmospheric pressure in here is off the charts! I never felt anything like it. It's crushing me! I feel it every time I'm here. That gravity. Well, this is Britain's highest court. But are you telling me it's fitted with some kind of device that can actually control air pressure? I think it's probably all in the mind. Yes, well, you won't let me down, will you, Mr. Naruhodo? I'm counting on you in today's trial. To save my life! To save the secret of my super high voltage entertaining kinesis machine from being made public! Yes, I understand. I know what I have to do. I have to establish that the explosion 2 days ago was nothing more than an unfortunate accident. Well, I'm sure there's nothing to worry about, really. Justice will prevail. Who is this? Someone who wouldn't know that we're doing this for Professor Harebrayne. So, maybe not Sherlock? Herlock, sorry. Gotta get those confused, I don't know why. Alright, well, when in doubt, go with nothing. My commiserations, Mr. Naruhodo. You appear to have been lumbered with a most tiresome case here. It is Herlock! You dick, you know exactly why we're here. Mr. Sholmes, I didn't expect to see you here. That was very mean, Bruno, leaving me alone at home with Early. It took me at least an hour to wake him. Is it? Are you? Sherlock Sholmes? Indeed, sir, I am he. Sherlock Sholmes. Oh, I've heard all about your exploits, even whilst living in Germany. Oh yes, Rant's magazine is on sale in Germany too. This month's installment was sublime. Your deduction in the adventure of the Silver Blaze was wonderful. Ah yes, a memorable case indeed. It concerned a snake, I seem to recall. No, that was the Speckled Band. Well, thank you for coming. I do appreciate your support. I'm sorry to disappoint you, my dear fellow, but I'm afraid I can't stay. Oh. I have urgent business at Madame Dispel's. You mean your waxwork job? No, the waxwork abduction, of course. Madame has engaged my services. Ah, so you're trying to get to the bottom of that ransom note, are you? The week's wages depend on it, as does the safe return of the waxwork, naturally. As such, I intend to give it my undivided attention. Oh, well, never mind then. I understand. Of course, with my skills of observation and reasoning, resolving the matter will be as easy as proverbial pie. I shall return forthwith. For until I solve the case, I still have no money to afford a pie of any description. Oh, then you must absolutely give it your full attention, Early. Quite, Iris, quite. But life is riddled with irony, you know. Whenever I give something my full attention, I have a quite insatiable desire for a pie. One of the universe's intractable mysteries, you might say. I hate pie. It's coarse, and it goes on forever. Oh, yes, definitely, absolutely, I totally understand. Is someone a little starstruck? I wish you the very best of luck, Professor Harebrayne. Oh, I thank you. Before I depart, Mr. Naruhodo, a word in your ear, if you please. You can do a lot more with my ear. What's this about? As you have remarkably little grounding in science, I feel I ought to inform you. As compelling as this super high voltage instantaneous kinesis hypothesis may be, a practical implementation, such as was attempted by the professor at the Great Exhibition, is quite impossible. But the professor said the demonstration was a success. Yes, it would appear that he fervently believes it was. I've read Professor Bunnybrain's paper about it too, Runo, and I have to say, I'm sure it can't be done. It could barely be done theoretically, let alone practically. So he's completely barking up the wrong tree? But how could an experiment that had no possibility of succeeding in fact succeed? That's contradictory. And it's that contradiction that will be at the heart of the trial, I have no doubt. What's that supposed to mean? Now I must hurry along. I wish you the best of luck, my dear fellow. See you later, Early. Bula bula bula. Well, it looks like you're on your own today, Runo, but chin up, you can do it. Oh, what about you, Iris? I'm getting tired of this accent, so I'm going back to the Great Exhibition. Oh no, I'm afraid I can't help. I have something I need to do. I see. Hey, it's gonna be a big surprise for you when you find out what it is. That sounds ominous. Counsel for the defense and the defendant. Court is about to begin. Help me in session. Make your way to the courtroom at once. We're on our way. Who's sticking with them? Looks like the defendant and no one else. Looks like a lot of this is going to have to be an internal monologue. An experiment that the laws of science say can't possibly succeed. And a scientist who's convinced that it did. That's the riddle you have to unlock here, Ryanosuke. That's the key to this case. The guy said it was a success because there was still a hole punched into the crystal tower, which he claims explains that he was actually transported before he died, and the body ended up over there. To help clear that up. And Palindrome, thank you for the 2-month resub. Here we are again, in this goddamn courtroom. I've got to remember how to do my Santa. Ho, ho, ho. In the name of Her Majesty the Queen, I hereby declare this court to be in session. We are sitting today for the public trial of Professor Albert Harebrayne. I now call upon the counsels for the prosecution and defense to declare their willingness to proceed. The prosecution is ready. The defense is ready, my lord. I'm 6 months out of practice, and what's more, I'm without Suzato-san today. And Iris wasn't a help in that case she was in, so fuck her. Is it just my imagination, or does the air in here feel even more oppressive than usual? So, I must say I recollect the victim of this case all too well, Mr. Odie Asman. Mr. Asman was well known as a financier, though that was merely a front for his diverse criminal activities. Ah, well, glad to see he's on equal footing when it comes to accusing people of crimes they were acquitted of. It was only a month ago that the man appeared in court prosecuted by you, Lord Van Zykes. But the jury unanimously found him not guilty. Because every member of the jury had been bribed by the sound of it. These powerful London criminals are prepared to go to extreme lengths to keep their freedom. But 2 days ago, on the 21st of October, Mr. Asman met his end. The work of the Reaper, was it? Fuck you, my lord. If that is how your lordship would describe divine retribution. But the fact remains that Mr. Asman's death was a direct result of the actions of the accused, Professor Harebrayne. Very well, then. Now, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, you have been selected at random, to represent the will of the people. I did finger quotes there, because we all know that's bullshit. On the 6th, are you ready to fulfill your societal duty? Okay, you're new. I always do a southern accent. I'm so used to my local Texan taking the foreman's place. Let's see. Man, I don't know what voice to give this guy that it doesn't end up just turning southern. I'm most gratified to have been selected to carry out this important civic duty, my lord. To have a man's life in the palm of one's hand, oh gosh, oh golly, it sends shivers down my spine. We have our debutante again, apparently. Science experiments, magic, conjuring tricks, courtroom trials are nothing more than performances. Any spurious scholar that defies the reputation of science deserves to hang. Okay, there's a juror number 5 is a child. Can we have juror number 5 stricken for being a child? We have... Oh god, I don't know where that was going. Man, how much corn does she have back there? There's just so much of it. I'm totally not trying to buy time while I try to figure out a voice. Fuck it, she gets woman voice. We have to listen to what's said on both sides of the fence and settle on one. That's it, isn't it? It's the fucking cop! And he's still asleep! How did you even get here? Wasn't like this in my day, wasn't like this at all. Hey, what do you know? A whole new set of jurors. Isn't that a refreshing take? I'm sure we'll find how 4 of them should be disqualified immediately. But that's for when they all vote guilty and we have to stop them. That's... The police killer Automolk lookalike. Again. And he's as exhausted as ever, it seems. Now, as I'm sure you're all aware, the incident we are here to do today tragically took place at the Great Exhibition shortly after its opening. Though the death toll could have been far worse, with the exception of the victim, no one was killed. Nevertheless, the dream of the science being exhibited rapidly turned into a nightmare for the spectators. A tragic turn of events, and as such, the eyes of all London, no, the whole world will be on this trial. Oh yeah, I'm sure the French papers are really writing this up. It is our duty to reach a swift and just conclusion, I feel. So, your opening statement, please, Lord Van Zykes. At the heart of this incident is the technology never before demonstrated anywhere in the world. One of science's latest developments, I take it? The government's been keen to capitalize on the Great Exhibition to improve Britain's technological advantage. The technology being demonstrated by the accused was described as super high voltage instantaneous kinesis. Good lord! I can't pronounce that, let alone understand it! It's designed to disassemble human subjects using extremely high voltage electricity and beam them instantly to another location where they are subsequently reassembled. Is such a thing even within the realms of possibility? Well, I don't believe it, that's for sure. I already forgot the foreman's accent. Disassembling people with electricity, my goodness, how shocking! Ha! The whole idea is absurd. The hypothesis would never stand up to scrutiny. Sir, I believe you are a fellow of the Royal Society, are you not? An expert in your field? Okay, well, yeah. Juror number 4 needs to get struck. I am, and my word on the matter can be considered final. Instant kinesis is poppycock. So this expert, Mr. Sholmes, are in agreement. It's impossible. What's the prosecution's view on the matter? The prosecution would assert that the accused instantaneous kinesis demonstration was a success. It's too early for dance time. Let's keep going. What? What rot? Order! Order! The professor's hypothesis is currently under investigation by the British government. If it is deemed to have merit, a substantial research grant will be made available. The accused made use of the invention built on his new hypothesis to take Mr. Lasman's life, in order to be the sole benefactor of the grant. But... This disastrous demonstration was no accident. It was carefully designed from the outset to end the life of the victim. Thank you, Lord Van Zykes. The prosecution's stance is clear. But you will now bring forth witnesses to substantiate your claims. Gladly, my lord. Cape off! Bailiff, show the first witness to the stand. It's Gregson. Witnesses, state your names and occupations for the court. Yes, sir. Tobias Gregson, Detective Inspector at Scotland Yard's Homicide Division. I was on duty at the demonstration on the day in question and in charge of the following investigation. Albert Harebrayne, scientist! I wish I could have gotten a screen cap of one of those various poses, but I guess this will do. You were born in England, but have been carrying out research in Germany in recent years, correct? Yes, that's right. After graduating from university here in Britain, I went to work in Germany and made an amazing discovery. Which is what brought me back. I had to demonstrate my incredible hypothesis at the Great Exhibition. What you demonstrated was incredible, alright. An incredible explosion. But the science was a success. The instantaneous kinesis worked. Everyone saw it. They must have done. Yes, there was a terrible accident, but the demonstration of my hypothesis was a success. Well, that much is undeniable, as shown in this photograph taken by the forensic investigation team, which I'm really tempted to just call fit. This was taken inside the Crystal Tower, I take it. The centerpiece of the exhibition, no less. That's right, my lord. Seems the victims rammed straight into it. I see. Very well, submit the photograph as evidence. As the court's heard, the victim of the incident was Mr. Odie Asman. There have been another of allegations made against the man, but putting them aside for the time being, it was the man who financed the research for the experiment and the demonstration itself. I see. So to summarize the situation, the defendant is accused of taking the life of the man who funded his work. Would that be correct? Exactly. But couldn't it be that the explosion was caused by some malfunction in the apparatus used for the demonstration? That's right! That must be it! My splendid machine! My poor, splendid machine! You saw it yesterday, didn't you? We can't even examine the wreckage thanks to the special dispensation for scientific equipment act. What? The wreckage? The wreckage? Well, that being the case, how can the facts be established? How can it possibly be determined whether this was an accident or deliberate malicious act? Extremely simply, my lord. I beg your pardon? Isn't that right, witness? What? Sorry, me? No, your neighbor. Yes, sir. It was murder, plain and simple. Anyone could state that with complete certainty. What? How can he possibly think that? Thank you, Inspector. I think we had better proceed to the formal testimony. You will explain to the court on what grounds you claim this experiment that could have been... You claim this experiment to have been the front for murder. A front for murder. Well, the corpse that went crashing through the crystal tower had a broken neck. I made a minor miscalculation, the angle of the beam projection, that's all. That was my mistake. But the post-mortem examination revealed another injury, a fatal wound. There was a lesion in the chest where it had clearly been stabbed by something sharp right in the heart. So the victim was killed before he went anywhere, and this fella's the only one who could have done it. An extraordinary business. In addition to suffering a broken neck, the victim was stabbed in the heart? Information I would really like to have heard from someone other than the judge. The coroner says the death would have been all but instant from a room like that. You could say, in fact, that the victim was killed twice by the accused. What? No! You can only die once, Van Zykes. People die when they are killed. That's Anime 101. He was already dead. Anything afterwards is kind of just defiling a corpse. Moving on. No, no, and no! That couldn't be further from the truth! I have here the experiment plan document that was submitted to the security team. The victim stood himself inside something called the bird cage, ready to be beamed instantly. To the second level of the Crystal Tower, about 25 yards away. The experiment did not go according to plan, however. As the machine was put into operation, there was a large explosion. The blast caused the beam to transmit to a point higher than intended. Accordingly, the nucleokinesis resulted in the birdcage materializing in midair. From where it subsequently fell, crashing through the glass of the Crystal Tower's large round window. Alright, that's a screen cap. I may have just been amused by how they showed it, but I figure the still image alone is like, the fuck's going on here? My word. One assumes the victim's neck was broken upon impact with the tower, then. I'm so sorry, I didn't mean for this to happen. The machine was just too powerful. But honestly, really, I swear, it was just an accident, a terrible accident. Unfortunately, the excuse can't save you. Now, not considering the sharp murder weapon that pierced the victim's heart. Murder weapon? What are you saying? This is the autopsy report submitted by the coroner. The prosecution would like it entered into the court record. Your request is granted, counsel. I was there in person, you know. I saw the whole ludicrous performance. And the only other person on the stage with Mr. Asmus is that disgraceful excuse for a scientist. Then really, by all accounts, it must have been him. Hard to think otherwise, really. Very well, counsel for the defense. Proceed with the cross-examination, please. Oh yes, my lord. I need to focus here. It's been a while. It's been a while. Are witnesses allowed to be jury members? No, they're not. Yeah, juror number 4 should be gone. Juror number 4 should be gone for being a witness and being an expert. The expert doesn't, like, immediately disqualify you, but no lawyer would. Did I ever get into the process of voir dire, or voir dire, as we call it in Texas? So, because there are 2 ways to get a juror off of a panel. When you're selecting a jury, you get... Okay, so this is going to be fun. All right. So... Keystone Ultra, thank you for the 5 gift stubs. Here's your little law tidbit for the day. Obviously, I can only give this from a perspective of a lawyer who works in Texas. But when you're assembling a jury, especially for a murder trial, you don't just get 12 people in the room. What you do get is about 60, maybe even 100, even more, depending on like how famous the trial is. You get a whole panel of potential jurors, and then what both the prosecutor and the defense attorney do is ask questions. They essentially get to know the jury a bit better, because they would have a sheet that has a whole bunch of biographical information, where they work, what job they have, if any, that sort of stuff. But then they could ask them questions about just what their opinion would be on specific instances relative to the case. You do not go into the actual facts of the case, but you could say, how do you feel a person who has accidentally caused the death of a person still be charged with murder? I'm not the best at voir dire. I haven't done it, but I've observed it. So at the end of the day, what you end up getting is knowledge about all these jurors. And so you have 2 ways to get jurors off the panel and thus not have them become the jury. They are... like, I forget the word, peremptory strikes, and just straight out disqualification. Disqualification would be if you know any of the people associated with the case, if you are a witness to the case, or you've stated any sort of bias or prejudice that would invalidate you as a possible juror. Once all of those are out, you then have peremptory strikes, which are just the prosecutor and the defense attorney, or rather, the prosecution and the defense, striking people they don't like. It can be for any reason except race or sex. If I come back and I see the prosecutor has struck 6 black people from the list to not be on the jury, I can say, this wasn't... they're just striking black people because they're racist. And that goes into a whole, like, subset of jury selection. But what you have is, after the disqualification and after the peremptory strikes, the first 12 people in the panel that have cleared the process become the jury, and everyone behind them just goes home. So what should have happened here, obviously Victorian era, they don't have as robust as a voir dire system as we have now, or I can't say for certain, but definitely juror number 4 should have been knocked off. You don't even have to get to peremptory strikes. That guy should have been disqualified for being a witness. How often do people say they have bias? Well, see, that's the thing. That's why the prosecution and the defense ask questions. They're not... Someone usually doesn't volunteer that they have a bias, but through proper questioning, either side can reveal that this juror has a bias and thus get them disqualified. Coding Wizard, thank you for a Prime sub. Anyway, feel free to post your questions and I'll circle back to them. But let's go ahead and get to this cross-examination. Obviously, we've had, where's the murder weapon? You talk about him being stabbed, but let's get to that murder weapon statement. Okay, so is it this one or this one?
Hold it!
The defense knew nothing of this crucial information. common trick in Ace Attorney games, isn't it? The prosecution received this report from FIT only this morning. That was the first we knew of it as well. I can only apologize for the impossibility of informing the defense. Oh, please. This is shit you pull every case. Sarcastic and insincere. Thanks. So what was the nature of this sharp object? Among the accused tools, the very new set the demonstration one is of particular interest. This. Oh yes, that would appear to be some kind of... Ah! There he is! My trusty little companion, Andrew! Andrew, of course. Do you know each other already? He's one of my dear friends, like all my tools! I named them all, you know. We're one big, happy family. Okay, this one has a bit too much crap on the screen, but I'm taking this as a potential thumbnail, too. Andrew is my flat-headed screwdriver, of course. His brother Michael is a crosshead. Well, it would appear that your beloved Andrew has a red stain on his shank. Ah, that isn't... It's blood. Beyond all reasonable doubt. No! And that's not all. The long, sharp shape of this Andrew fellow is completely consistent with the victim's wound. What? What?! Order! Order! Well, you see, you're making racist jokes now, chat, but if for example, if in a rare circumstance you have everyone involved of the same race, racial prejudice would not be a cause for disqualification. Unless, of course, you're racist in the sense that you believe your own race can do no wrong, and that's who's being prosecuted. Then I get it's complicated. That's why prejudice and biases are not like specific. If you have one that could affect your determination of the case one way or another, that would be cause for dismissal. But if for some reason that bias or prejudice is not involved in the case, then it doesn't matter if you have it. You wouldn't be struck. Although the attorney may still strike you for personal reasons. The court will enter this friend of the defendant as evidence. So one of Professor Harebrayne's tools is the murder weapon? Great. Yes, the chat weren't making racist jokes. They were making jokes about racist people being in a potential jury. They're not racist. They're making fun of racists, which makes it okay. Alright, hold on. There's been a lot of evidence I need to examine. Can I look at this stuff? Hey! This is a crossbow. Really? Yeah, this is a collapsible crossbow. Oh, there's some sort of lever here. What the? What is this? It looks like a cross between a bow and a gun. Really? Ugh. Your Honor, I like to present this piece of evidence I took from the crime scene. It's a crossbow. I think it's probably used for the same thing, too. Hey, at least the court record knows what it is. It looks like you wind this around in order to draw the bowstring back and create tension. You must be able to fire arrows with a huge amount of force using this device then. In fact, I would imagine it's far more accurate and powerful than a Japanese longbow. Ugh, I really had no idea it was picking up when I spotted this at the exhibition grounds. Right. Well, I think we know how the murder weapon found its mark. This groove here must be where the arrows are loaded, I suppose. So I was right, it's a sort of bow with an automatic fire mechanism. This would be perfect for someone like me who catches his ear with a bowstring 2 times out of 3. In fact, if I had one of these, maybe I could have beaten Kazuma in Kyoto archery training. Well, you can beat him now, because he's dead. Or not, I don't know. Always check the back. It looks like layers of thick canvas with a thick rubber lining of sorts. I've never seen anything like it before. Applying Mr. Shon's methods, you might deduce it was part of a raincoat worn by someone who really, really didn't want to get wet. And the charring might have occurred when the person was struck by lightning. No, that's dumb. Or maybe not. Autopsy report. Coroner, Courtney Scythe. Really? Details of victim, Odie Asman, British, time of death, yada yada. 220. Might be good to remember that. Hemorrhage of a wound to the chest that pierced the heart, inflicted by a sharp implement. A broken vertebra, most likely resulting from impact after a sudden fall from considerable height. Wow, that is quite sharp. I'm surprised you didn't call it something that started with an... Oh, wait, you did. Andrew. Got it. I forgot. Andrew was this guy. Michael was the other one. So I was about to say, why didn't you name it something with an A? But you did. Harebrayne, so never mind. I've seen this unusually shaped handle before. It's the same screwdriver that was lodged in the grill on the floor of the kinesis machine. Which could be important information, so I should definitely make a note of it. So Andrew was still at the scene of the crime. This was another screwdriver. No doubt was the one that was still plunged in the victim's chest. This is blood. Mr. Asman's, no doubt. This is the problem with looking at murder weapons. Really? Okay. Boop, whoop, whoop. Alright. Sure, why not?
Hold it!
What grounds do you have for saying that? Huh! You really need to ask! There were only 2 people on that public experimentation stage in front of the whole crowd! The victim, Mr. Odie, and the accused, Professor Harebrayne. And we know for certain that before the experiment, the victim was alive. That's right, I saw him with my own eyes! Juror number 4 is getting more and more southern as we go on, I'm noticing. Furthermore, following the explosion and kinesis, nobody went anywhere near the body. In other words, only someone on stage with the victim could possibly have done it. Oh, well, that seemed to have provoked a response.
Excuse me.
Professor Harebrayne, do you have some information that may be relevant here? Professor! Ah, damn, I missed it again. I need to have my finger on the trigger when he reacts like that. Sorry! I was just calculating the optimum coefficient of electrolysis to separate molecules from the human body. And the witness stand is the best place for that? It seemed as though you might have something to say about Inspector Gregson's last remark. Yes, that's right. Of course. He just said that nobody else could have done it, didn't he? Yeah, that's right. Who else could have stabbed the victim, eh?
I don't know, but there's no way I could have possibly have stabbed Mr. Asmund, as you say.
Eh?
Explain, please, Professor.
Of course, this cold-hearted policeman may not be aware, I suppose. But humans are warm-blooded mammals with blood running continuously through their veins. I have heard.
Then surely you see, if I'd plunged something the size of Andrew into the man's chest, the whole stage would have been a bloodbath. No, a blood swimming pool. But thousands of Londoners were watching me at the time. And yet not one of them claims to have seen a swimming pool of blood. One of these has to be a good thumbnail, I just know it.
Well, no, I suppose not.
You see, not one!
True, I didn't see anything like that.
Well done, Professor. That was a great counter-argument. I didn't even have to do anything.
Order! Order! Speaking of blood...
Pray forgive the discourtesy if I savor a drop from my hallowed chalice to accompany my old friend's adducing. Here's to you, Albert. Oh, you're too kind, Barrett, but I'm really not a patch on you.
No, you're not.
Now?
You've neglected to mention one crucial possibility.
I have?
In a particular situation in which very little bleeding would result from a stab wound. Of course! Inspector, enlighten the court, please. Yes, sir!
Where are they going with all this?
Very well, you will amend your formal testimony now, Inspector Gregson. The weapon the victim was stabbed with must have been left in his body while he was beamed through the air. And then now we have this lovely bit of information.
Objection!
You say that while the weapon remains in the body, there's very little bleeding. Is that unequivocal?
Look, there was no blood on the experimentation stage, even though that's where the fellow was stabbed. The only explanation for that is that the screwdriver was still in his body, stopping any heavy bleeding. It's common in medical knowledge, my learned friend, even on your side of the world.
Yes, but about this screwdriver. The thing is, we actually saw it at the scene ourselves, on the experimentation stage.
What?
It was on the floor by the wreckage of the machine, poking through a metal grill. I went to pick it up, but the detective here stopped me. Isn't that right, Inspector Gregson?
Well, now that you mention it, yeah.
Inspector, we understand that you permitted the defense counsel to investigate. You know that's not allowed! That you contravened the Special Dispensation for Scientific Equipment Act?
No, not at all! I wouldn't do that! I just let him look, nothing more. I was very clear that he did not have one detect a thing!
Yes, that's true. The screwdriver was in plain sight on the stage. But it shouldn't have been, should it?
What are you getting at?
If this tool had still been in the victim's body when he was beamed away by the machine, then it shouldn't have still been on the stage.
Oh!
That's right. It should have been beamed across to the Crystal Tower along with Mr. Asmund. And been found still lodged in the victim's chest. We got our pursuit thing going.
Order! Order! How do you explain this, Professor?
Wait, did he say inspector or professor? Did I completely misread that? No, he said inspector.
Well, I don't... It looks as though everything that the victim had on his person moved with him when he was beamed. If the screwdriver was still in his chest when the instantaneous kinesis occurred, obviously that should have been beamed to the destination as well.
You!
This is a strange situation. Even though people are saying that this instantaneous kinesis is a scientific impossibility, we're still basing arguments on the assumption that it did actually take place. Alright, time to tighten the screws here. My lord! If the prosecution is unable to explain this inconsistency in its argument, we can only conclude that the testimony given in support cannot be relied upon. When is that stopped me? Lord Van Sykes is stumped. I got him! I got him! I caught him! It probably wasn't a good gesture, but it still was out the dialogue blocking this way. Do you have something to say, witness? Yes, I knew it. It bears out. The equations hold.
Mr. Naruhodo, don't worry!
About what?
Without delving into the details, there is no inconsistency.
What?
Even if Andrew had been lodged in Mr. Asmund's chest, my trusty tool wouldn't have moved. Andrew remaining on this stage is consistent with my calculations.
What? This is why you don't let engineers speak more than they have to. Actually, I'll go ahead and amend it with this. A common problem in both taking depositions, essentially testimony before the actual trial, and then actually having the trial, you have a problem with witnesses oversharing. Like, there is not as much surprise as these games and legal dramas would have it appear. But when the attorneys want a specific kind of narrative to form, it's really hard to make sure the witnesses don't go off script. And I'm not saying that to the sense that the lawyers have coached them, but when asked an open-ended question, a witness can just take it and run with it to the point where they're adding a whole bunch of details that opposing counsel can draw upon in cross-examination and tear the whole thing apart. This is a nice example of that. Harebrayne needs to shut the fuck up. It would seem your illusions have been shattered. Clearly we would hear the accused explanation. Or should I say this brilliant scientist's explanation? I'm dead. Just when I found an inconsistency in the prosecution's argument. Scientists. Very well, the defendant will testify again. Gregson, get the fuck off the stage. Provide us with a scientific explanation as to why the inconsistency asserted by the defense fails to hold.
In the name of Apollo, I will, my lord.
I have not seen any of Daredevil, let alone Season 2.
To be clear, I am still at the stage of gathering data in my research. My hypothesis states the kinesis cannot transport metal, though, hence the metal weapon would have stayed put.
Okay, wait, but he had his Stop right there. Can't transport metal? Then what the fuck is this? This looks like metal. You dingus. I have to let him talk his head off.
In other words, the point just raised by Mr. Naruhodo isn't an inconsistency at all. As Mr. Asmund was the patron of my research, without him my work wouldn't have been possible. Now I have the duty to protect the incredible machine that we built together.
Dick. So the thrust of your testimony, Professor, is that based upon his hypothesis, metal objects cannot be moved by this method of instantaneous kinesis. In other words, since the screwdriver is made of metal, even if it remained lodged in the victim's chest, its subsequent discovery on the stage, despite the victim being found elsewhere, is not an inconsistency. And therefore, Professor Albert Harebrayne could still have been the killer.
My great hypothesis holds, you see! We had to make the cage we used to contain the subject from wood for that very reason.
I was not addressing you, witness.
Professor Harebrayne? Yes?
Whose side are you on here?
I don't take sides, Mr. Naruhodo. No. My only interest lies in upholding my hypothesis. I'm a scientist, after all.
Dick. Is he working for us or against us? It's very hard to tell. Let's see how you cross-examine this testimony, my Nipponese friend.
Oh, come on! Come on, Van Sykes. I thought we had a rapport going, yet you still whip out the Nipponese with such disgust. Yes, fire away, Mr. Naruhodo!
Yeah, speaking of fire. Yeah, I don't care about that. Well, then how do you explain this?
Objection!
Professor Harebrayne, you say that according to your hypothesis, nothing made of metal can be beamed by instantaneous kinesis using the machine you made. Is that right?
Yes, that's right. Spot on. Exactly correct.
In that case, I'd ask you to have a look at this photograph that was taken at the scene. In particular, I could pay attention to the victim's face. You can clearly see that Mr. Asmund is wearing a pair of spectacles with a metal rim.
What? Metal? No! Metal can't... That's not... metal? No!
We've already established that the proposed murder weapon, the screwdriver, was found on the stage. However, if your hypothesis is correctly predicted that outcome, it should also have predicted that the metal-rimmed spectacles be found in the same place. Ooh, here's that pursuit theme again. Dance break. Damn, that's good music.
Ah! My hypothesis! My hypothesis!
Professor Harebrayne, this isn't easy for me to say, but you're full of shit. But your hypothesis is clearly flawed.
Wah!
I'm just grabbing everything I can. Order! 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 Counsel, what is the implication of this? If, on the day in question, the alleged instantaneous kinesis never actually took place, then it's entirely possible that the victim was killed somewhere other than on stage. And in that case, someone other than the defendant could have been the culprit.
But my hypothesis is sound! I proved it that day. This experiment was a success. The experiment was proof of all my work.
If I could say something here in my capacity as a fellow of the Royal Society. Jurors giving testimony. Yes, juror number 4, go ahead. As a man of science, there's one thing I simply cannot abide. And that's a fraud who pretends to be a fellow man of science.
What? What? Wait! Great Scott! Are you suggesting my science is suspect?
It's just been disproved, hasn't it? In front of all of us. In other words, the whole demonstration was a complete nonsense from start to finish. Believe me, my fellow jurors, when I tell you that this man is a heel, a bounder, and a fraud. Honestly, the wreckage of that machine could be stripped down and thoroughly examined.
No, never! That machine is the essence of my entire hypothesis! It's protected by the Special Dispensation for Scientific Equipment Act.
What the devil is this blasted act all about it? Who made up such a daft rule? I don't like the way this seems to be going. What's the best way for me to help the professor? Oh, yeah, wait and see where this is going. No, objection!
Objection.
Professor Harebrayne is yet to perfect his invention. That would seem to be the case, yes. But even so, what? Going to such trouble and expense to create a fake machine to display in public. You would have absolutely no reason to do such a thing.
Objection!
He had an obvious reason to do exactly that. For the research grant money. Ah! If the government was foolish enough to have deemed this man's ridiculous notion plausible, I need his conspirators would have received a handsome sum indeed.
Conspirators?
What would be the value of such a grant? £10? It's just a research grant. How much could it be? £10? You're an order of magnitude out, madam. £500 a year.
Ooh, ah!
Oh, that's not my girl voice.
You'll clearly have had some on that for years!
Apparently Iris is juror number 5 now. The Society's noticed an increase in bogus public demonstrations in the field of science recently. And plenty of scientists arguing with each other to get the largest slice of the funding cake. People's greed is plenty motive for murder, I assure you.
No, I haven't deceived anyone, least of all the government. My hypothesis is sound, the science is sound, please, you must believe me.
Objection!
No matter how unbelievable this hypothesis may seem to you, ladies and gentlemen, the fact remains that the victim was transported instantly to the Crystal Tower. Which means that the experiment was a success.
Ah, Barrack!
And therefore, the only person who could possibly have committed this murder is the accused.
Ah, Barrack.
Where is his heading? I have no idea. My lord, if I may? Yes, Lord Van Zykes? The prosecution would like to summon new witnesses to the stand. New witnesses? What would be the nature of their involvement? They were spectators of the demonstration at the exhibition who were occupying special seats. Eyewitnesses? Very well, the court grants the prosecution's request. I should very much like to hear from eyewitnesses to the incident. Including juror number 4. Get the fuck up there! The prosecution's stance is clear. The experiment was no push. The accused killed the financier victim there on the public stage before the very eyes of the spectators. Now, my learned friend. Oh, yes? It's time for you to make your own stance clear. There's clearly a flaw in the professor's hypothesis. I can definitely see that. But where does that leave me? We shall take a short recess now. During which time the prosecution will prepare its new witnesses to take the stand. As you wish, my lord. Good. In that case, the court is adjourned for 20 minutes. Lunch break! What? A to be continued now? Great. It's only an hour in, which means the next part's either really long or it's really long. Well, obviously save. I don't know if I want... if the next part goes on for more than another hour, I'm going to be mad. But I don't want to end it here after just an hour, so I guess we're still going. Ding. Mr. Naruto.
What on earth were you playing at just now? Or rather, what on earth are you playing at all along? My hypothesis, my amazing hypothesis, you've been picking holes in it from the start.
I'm sorry about that.
But you promised me. You said you proved that the dread explosion was an accident, not murder. You said you keep my person's invention from falling into anyone else's hands. But all you've done so far is try to undermine me.
Yes, I did make you a promise, you're right. I said that I believe in you and fight for your freedom to the very end. But I also told you I was no scientist. I don't understand your hypothesis. The fact is, there's an undeniable flaw in your logic, isn't there?
No, but if I just run another through some equations, yes, you see, it's because my work's incomplete.
Perhaps it is. Nevertheless, a man died as a consequence, didn't he?
Oh. Oh no! You're right. You're so right. It's all my fault. I have no right to blame you for my failures. I'm a disaster! Not just as a scientist, but as a human being.
Well, that might be a little over the top.
While we're on the subject, what about Barrick? He's being awful!
Claiming his old university friend to be a murderer, you mean?
He's a disaster, not just as a prosecutor, but as a human being! Oh, but no, wait! He's the Reaper, isn't he? Perhaps he's not classified as Homo sapiens anymore.
Glad that's cleared up. Yeah, he's Homo vampirus now. Can I double check something with you?
Ah, yes? What?
The machine and demonstration you prepared. Were based entirely off your hypothesis, I presume? There was no trickery involved?
I drew the plans for the machine on with my very own hands. Every line was painstakingly drawn with a firm belief that science is the only future. So yes, it's true that my hypothesis hasn't reached maturity yet, but please, Mr. Naruto, you must believe in it.
Alright, Professor, I understand. I don't like it, but I understand.
Counsel, defendant! The prosecution's witnesses are ready to take the stand. Court's about to be in session again, Governor. Make your way into the courtroom, please.
It all hinges on that demonstration. If the professor's hypothesis is sound as he claims, it leaves him as the only person who could possibly have killed a victim. But on the other hand, Mr. Sholmes was adamant.
Remember me in your dreams, Naruto!
Damn, get out of my head. So really, what could I be trying to prove here? What should I be trying to prove here? To be continued.
In the name of Her Majesty the Queen, I hereby reconvene the proceedings of this court. Counsels for the defense and prosecution, are you ready for the new witnesses to testify?
The prosecution is ready, my lord. As is the defense, my lord.
So, Lord Van Zykes, I believe these next witnesses saw the demonstration on the day in question with their own eyes?
Indeed I did.
And as luck would have it, one of them is a police detective.
Oh god, don't have Ginny back in here. I don't want to do the Cockney accent. Or don't want to try. So the testimony we are about to hear can be considered highly reliable. Perfect. A detective of all people. The prosecution stance remains unchanged. Though it ended in tragedy, the demonstration on the day in question was scientifically sound. And consequently, the sole person with the opportunity to have committed this act of murder is the only other individual to have been present on the stage at the time, the accused. Thank you, counsel. The prosecution's position is clear. So, bring forth your witnesses now. Bailiff, show the witnesses in. The witnesses who proximity to the incident on the day in question will verify the truth unequivocally. What the fuck? Ah, damn it! Get off the stage! Witnesses, state your names and occupations for the court to hear. My name is Balthazar Loon! No, that was close. It was close to what I wanted for him, but too much like Mr. Moon. My name is Balthazar Loon! That sounds even better, whatever. I am the impresario of the hot air balloons in vicinity of the experimental stage! My name is Wilhelm Gottfried Simon Ormstein. I have come to see the great exhibition from all the way from my home in Bohemia. Danke. I'm very rich. Inspector Gina Lestrade, Scotland Yard. I'm a great detective. Even Sherlock Holmes agrees. I was on security duty at the expedition and I got up... Exhibition, I got to go up one of them balloons. It was amazing. Gina. Again. Fuck. Try Italian accent? That may get me closer. But I have a feeling my Italian is just about as good as my Cockney. But did she mention she'd seen the disaster from up in the balloon, actually? Yeah, but she did mention she'd seen the disaster from up in the balloon, actually, didn't she? She clearly loved every minute of it. I want to go on a hot air balloon. There were 3 balloons flying near... What's this accent? There were 3 balloons flying near the public experimentation stage when the incident occurred. 2 of these witnesses were in one such balloon at the time and saw events unfold in the skies above. You make it... my mind just blanked on what an Italian accent sounds like. You make it sound like we were in the clouds. It was only an altitude of circa 60 feet, very low. Okay, if I can crack myself up with it, fine. Well, you can't see anything if you fly up too high, can ya? 60 feet. About 18 meters then. Bada booby? It's me, Looney. Thank you for your introductions. Now, you will give your formal testimony for the court. Kindly describe exactly what you witnessed, especially those of you at a vantage point above the stage. I don't know how to do a Mad Hatter. Like, I can't even come close to an Ed Wynn. You gotta get Scott up in here for that. It was an incident terrible. I am only grateful that my balloons were not damaged. There's a huge bang from the stage, and then the next second, another bang in the sky beside us. And from amid this smoke, a cage appeared out of nowhere. The cage, as it fell from the sky like a stone, it crashed into the distant tower. I didn't get a good look inside the cage, but no one went near it after it crashed into the tower. A most extraordinary collective account, I must say. God damn, you all sound terrible. Can I just clarify something? Not with Gina. There's a detail in the witness's testimony that I've not heard any mention of until now. Specifically, that there were 2 explosions. More precisely, 2 explosions in 2 separate places, yes. When the demonstration began, the balloon carrying the 2 witnesses was around here. There were other balloons in the air nearby at the time carrying other passengers as well, to be clear. Then, as power was supplied to a machine for the demonstration, the first explosion occurred. The so-called birdcage that contained the victim disappeared from the stage, and a moment later, the second explosion occurred, directly adjacent to the balloon carrying the witnesses. The birdcage appeared at the site of the explosion, subsequently to plummet down into the crystal tower. I was very surprised, suddenly a cage before my eyes with a person inside. The blast was so hot, but I didn't want to miss a thing, so I kept my eyes wide. It's a little major. Bada-ba-boopy. Danke. I still have lots of money. Precisely who is this curious infant? What is this child doing over here? Not you, juror number 5, that child. I'm told he is a young noble of Bohemian royalty. Apparently, he disguised himself in order to steal unnoticed into the great exhibition. Yeah, I'm here in London on a sightseeing trip with my elementary school. We will have the benefit of a child's point of view in the testimony. Do we really need that? Then I remove my mask. This is what I look like. Oh yes, I see. A delightful face, I'm sure. Your Honor, that is way too familiar. Yeah, everybody says so. Great disguise, then. The point is, the testimony of these witnesses further substantiates the facts for the court. Namely, that despite ending in an explosion, instantaneous kinesis was successfully demonstrated. And furthermore, that after the arrival of the police, no one approached the crystal tower where the victim fell. Therefore, only the accused, who was with Mr. Harebrayne on the stage, could have possibly committed the murder. Yes, thank you, counsel. Well, the prosecution's views on the matter are quite clear, which I've said, like, for the 5th time now. So the defense cross-examination now, please. Yes, my lord. Cross-examination. Yeah, so as much as I hate to have to say more for Gina, that's what I would want to learn more about.
Hold it!
So you actually saw the accident happen from up in the air? Yep, isn't it amazing what a detective gets to do, eh? I'm telling you, Otto, being a lawyer's a mug's game. You should join the force. We can go flying together. You know me so well. Yes, well, anyway, could you tell us exactly what you saw, do you think? Everything! We saw everything, because we were up above it all. That dodgy cove climbing into the cage and that dodgy professor pulling all them levers. And that's when it happened. That was when Master Bang and the cage disappeared, just like that. You're describing the moment the subject's body was decomposed by electricity, I believe. I didn't know what to make of it. But then there was another bang right in the ear. I looked around, there was a huge great fireball next to us in the sky, and there was nothing there before. I'm sucking me thumb.
Excuse me.
Master Gods, what? I don't even remember that we got your name. Does your memory of the day differ? My teacher at elementary school said that when you meet someone for the first time, you should always use your full name. Yes. What was it again? William Gottfried Sigismund Ormstein. Just the 4 names then? The point is, do you have something to say? Something to add in response to Detective Gina Lestrade's last remark, perhaps?
Oh, I get it right, Otto. It's Inspector Lestrade.
Why does everyone have a problem with how I address them at the moment?
That is not what I saw.
Oh?
Yeah. There was a second explosion and it was right beside our balloon, that is true. But I'm sure.
Which is what I said, isn't it? 1 minute there was nothing before and next was a massive explosion.
My teacher at elementary school said that when someone else is speaking, if you are rude enough to interrupt,
you are the most awful life imaginable! Are all Bohemians brought up to be so full of joy? Beep-a-da-boppy.
Donka. Just before the second explosion happened to our balloon, I clearly witnessed a green balloon flying in the sky.
A green balloon? Hey, you what? I never saw nothing like that.
Yeah, I did! I saw it! And you can't say I didn't! I will complain to the council! I will cry and scream! My testimony is the truth! I am Bohemian Prince! You cannot say it's a lie! That is not allowed!
Playing the bleeding royalty card, aren't ya? Typical. Says the orphan who likes to remind people she works for Her Majesty's police. In that case, young man, I ask you to amend your formal testimony. In the interest of cordial national relations between Great Britain and Bohemia. Okay, and what do we know that's green? Because I think what we have here... Yep.
Objection!
Surely something about that last statement seems odd, doesn't it? Oh, no music, so I guess that wasn't right. Yada yada. Okay, so that wasn't what you wanted. We already pressed that. Ah, you have all the balloons, but instead we know one of them exploded. So what do you say about this?
Objection!
Mr. Loon. I'm gonna guess it's Looney. Balthazar Looney? Sure. Mr. Looney, in your testimony, you said that all three of the balloons you had operating at the time were undamaged.
See, that is correct. If they had been caught in the explosions, it would have been terrible.
I wonder if you might know what this is?
I think it may be, see, part of a balloon. A burnt piece of the fabric of the envelope.
Sorry, the envelope?
Pardon. It is a large round part of the balloon which becomes filled with hot air. It is made from a very thick fabric lined with rubber. You do not want to rip it apart. Wait for it when you are in the sky.
Just as I thought. This piece of cloth was found near the experimentation stage. In other words, as Master Guts testified, a green balloon did indeed explode that day.
Eh? Kiki the copy?
If all the balloons in the sky above the experimentation stage belong to you, Mr. Looney, then your statement that they are all undamaged clearly contradicts the evidence.
No! Biscotti!
Yada yada yada, sure. Look at all these cards I'm littering around. I feel sorry for whoever cleans after me. Oh no. Girl voice, girl voice, girl voice. Old man voice.
Objection!
The instantaneous kinesis did occur, but after the explosion on the stage, the point of materialization shifted to a location occupied by a balloon. Causing the balloon to explode? Yes, eminently plausible. Eminently plausible! An unfortunate traffic accident, as it were. It just changes nothing but the pertinent facts.
This I cannot accept!
Why not, Mr. Looney?
You are suggesting that I am a liar? The person died in a balloon incident.
There There's no need to get fired up, Mr. Lune. The victim is the sole fatality that day.
That's right, and I prove it. Balthazar Lune is not a liar.
This is not Italian anymore.
There is no such balloon in the sky. It's not possible.
You're saying it's impossible? Why? This court has more important matters to discuss than the number of balloons that were operating that day.
Hey!
Objection!
But we can't ignore the fact that nobody appears to have known anything about this other balloon until now. My lord, the defense calls for further testimony from Mr. Looney. I concur. There's clearly more to the truth here than meets the eye. Judgeatron, go! Transform and dispense justice. It's imperative that we clear out the issue of this fragile balloon, I feel. Witness, you will give supplementary testimony about the balloons you were operating at the exhibition.
Ah, grazie, my lord. As I said, Balthazar Lune is no liar.
Can't keep a consistent accent to save my fucking life.
Every balloon I had in the sky landed safely. All three of my balloons were carrying passengers. If they failed the ground explosion, it was a catastrophe.
But you can't get away from the fact that they burned a bit of cloth found at the scene, can ya? The carpenters at the yard reckon was probably some debris thrown from the explosion on the stage.
This stupid wreck is always face. It is mistaken. My balloon is red and blue zigzag stripes anyway.
So your assertion is that the balloon this child saw was not one belonging to you?
Si, exactamente. Even if I saw a balloon in the first place. I do not like the sound of it. It's very bad for business. If I had a good mind, I'd sue the land of Bohemia. If you attack us, we'll fight back. That will fall. I'm all for. Pay up, bitch. Beeble-a-boppy-boopy.
What happened to all-out war? Mr. Looney clearly doesn't appear to be lying. But that doesn't change the fact that there were testimony and evidence that are contradictory here. If the defense is unable to find fault with the statements, the court must consider them the truth. Think long and hard on that, my learned friend. The situation has clearly changed now. I have to get to the bottom of what happened here, no matter what it takes. Clearly there was another balloon not operated by Balthazar, but I guess that's too far of a point to get to now. Alright. I guess my only point of contention would be that he describes his balloons as red and blue, but we have a green piece of cloth here. So what do you say about that?
Hold it!
You mean the color is wrong?
Si, senor. I have not any green balloons in my warehouse.
And yet a piece of green cloth was found at the scene, and it's unmistakably from the balloon.
Well, I do not know about that, can be.
For the sake of argument, let's say that the green balloon did explode. Oh no, the accents are starting to bleed together. For the sake of argument, let's say that the green balloon did explode above the stage. You couldn't therefore conclude that it happened on the day in question. What? Why not? There have been recreational balloon flights over Hyde Park operating from before the Great Exhibition. One could have exploded on some earlier date. Unfortunate, as I'm sure you agree. I feel like we would already know. You believe it may have been from an earlier balloon accident that predates the exhibition?
Si, exactamente. Signor says I'm not. That is not for one of my balloons. Clearly, this little ragazine from Bohemia is mistaken about what he saw.
Excuse me.
Is something wrong, Master Gotts?
It's Master Wilhelm Gott Sigimanostein. Gottsreich.
It was on the tip of my tongue.
Yeah, something is very wrong. It's not what I know what I saw. There was a green balloon there. I swear it. I swear all over Bohemia. You can speak as much bad language as you like, but it changes nothing. Pay up, bitch. If you don't have evidence to accuse you, I must tell your parents to punish you, eh?
Perhaps we'll let the judge decide when it comes to punishments.
Evidence? What is evidence?
To give a simple example, young man. A photograph, for instance, so some tangible proof of what you claim.
Well, why didn't you say so sooner? I have the photograph here.
Good gracious! What?
I had not been up in a room for a while, so I was very excited. I took lots and lots of photographs of the Crystal Tower, of the Bohemian exhibit, of the streets of London, the harlot, the balloon, and the instantaneous kinesis experiment. Did you take a picture of that? Yeah, from picture.
Really? You did take one?
But all I wanted was a balloon. I was not interested in boring experiments.
Never mind that. Can you show us that photograph?
Of course! And then you will see. You will see that I'm not lying. That I really did see a green balloon.
What? What? That?
Well, I see you are all too shocked to speak.
Yes, I think shocked is indeed the word, young man.
Yeah, perhaps you cannot see that was a green balloon from this photograph, but that is not my fault. It is the fault of this stupid person who needs a camera. Where? Where?
Wah! That's a very bohemian sounding cry, umlauts and all.
Where? Where?
Very well, the court will accept this photograph as evidence.
It's not my fault. It's the fault of the person who made the camera.
Well, never mind. I'm sure you have plenty of wonderful sepia memories to take home with you. In any case, when exactly did you take that photograph?
Well, it was only there's a big explosion.
You don't say.
Then I pressed the shutter release. There was a very loud bang. And a hot wind rushed over my face.
That means this photograph was taken the split second before the explosion occurred.
Well, if you ask me, this black and white photograph changes nothing. I will not give a flying fig.
Lovely language you've picked up. As I thought, Mr. Looney's testimony just doesn't quite add up. The young bohemian boy claims to have seen another, fourth balloon. Mr. Looney vehemently denies the possibility, and it's hard to imagine the man in charge could be mistaken about the number that were in the air. Still, this inconsistency must tell us something, I'm sure. Uh-huh. And that's where we have our problem, because that balloon that was in the picture is empty. Let me double check. I just want to make sure there's nothing to examine. Alright.
Objection!
Unfortunately, the photograph Master Gotts took can't tell us the color of the balloon. But it can tell us something else. Something crucially important. But it shows that the pictured balloon wasn't carrying any passengers. Ah, my goodness, you're right! But surely all the balloons would have been carrying passengers. There would be no sense in it otherwise.
See, they're there for pleasure, for seeing the view. My balloons only fly with passengers.
I know I'm flip-flopping between Italian and Scandinavian here. I can't help it at this point. Which tells us that the pictured balloon isn't one of them. So when the incident occurred that day, there was a fourth balloon in the skies above the experimentation stage. The mysterious green balloon. Unlike the 99 Luft balloons.
I know nothing, niente. I can only tell you one thing. If this balloon was not carrying passengers, then it was not one of mine.
Ooh, be careful with that hat there.
Objection!
There are illegal tradesmen everywhere you look. Clearly, one such entrepreneur decided to capitalize on the opportunity presented by the great exhibition.
Then why are there no passengers? He wasn't making any money.
And managed to operate balloon flights on Mr. Lune's patch without him realizing.
See, the compison trying to steal my profits. I did not notice because one of the experimentals thought they were wrong on stage.
This fourth balloon exploded at the very same moment Mr. Aslan was beamed from the stage below. Right. So them scraps that fell to the ground after and left them scorch marks. They didn't come from the stage at all. It was the bits of balloon raining down. Because no one was in it, we didn't get no attention. A mysterious fourth balloon carrying no passengers silently floating over the experimentation stage.
Objection!
This photograph shows us nothing more. A stray balloon carrying no one and operated by some rogue trader. Clearly it has nothing to do with the case. Its relevance does elude me, I must say. This court has seen sufficient evidence and heard multiple testimony already. The prosecution calls for this trial to be concluded.
We're aboard. More case, please.
Really? Have we really got to the truth yet? No, I can't let this opportunity slip away. The jurors' minds are made up, and not in our favor. What else can this photograph tell us? Is there nothing more we can learn from it? Of course there's more. But wait, there's more!
Objection!
Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, wait, please don't give your decisions yet. The photograph from Mr. Gotts, Master Gotts, may well be hiding one more vital clue. What's that?
A vital clue?
Wow. Hold on, we may have a winner for thumbnail.
A vital clue?
No, that's not what his voice was.
A vital clue?
Objection!
We're well past the point of mere possibilities. It's time for the definitives now, so tell the court. What exactly does this alleged clue in the photograph prove? The cause of the explosion. We can reasonably assume that the pictured balloon was destroyed in the searing heat of the explosion.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, it was not my fault.
Evidently. Because the birdcage from the kinesis machine materialized in the sky where it had been flying. And the balloon, being filled with flammable hydrogen, instantly and explosively ignited.
Objection!
No, that's not what happened. But it would appear that this photograph requires closer examination. Counsel for the defense, you will highlight the location of this alleged clue in the photograph for the court.
Of course, my lord.
If you look closely, there's plain enough to see. It's plain enough to see, and what's shown is linked to another piece of evidence we have. In a way, it leads to an unbelievable conclusion. The clue that heavily suggests the real reason for the balloon exploded is this white fucking line that no one's mentioned or pointed out.
Take that!
The timing of this photograph can only be described as miraculous. Whoops, that's the history button. If you look, you'll notice there's a bright white line that appears to point directly at the balloon. Most likely a ray of light caught incidentally on the film. I'm afraid I can see nothing of the sort. Wait, have I been skipping extra dialogue? Feels like I've... No? Weird. If you look with a magnifying glass, my lord, it becomes clear what the nature of this bright line really is. Goodness, what is that? Undeniably some flash of light, yes.
Wow, golly, do you think it might be lightning?
It couldn't have been a finer day.
I believe we may be looking at fire!
A ball of fire heading straight for the balloon. But like an arrow! Indeed, even to my aging eyes, it would appear to be a flame of some sort. My word, are you suggesting this flame struck the hydrogen gas that filled the balloon?
Objection!
That's absurd. The balloon would have been 60 feet above the ground at the time. No flame could possibly have reached such a height.
Objection!
Actually, it's my opinion that a particular piece of evidence found at the scene reveals how that is exactly what did happen. What evidence? If such evidence exists, Counsel, then for goodness sake, present it, man. Which evidence explains this mysterious streak of flame that appears to be headed directly for the balloon? It's this fucking crossbow, isn't it?
Take that!
This was found hidden at the foot of a small ornamental tree near the scene. Good lord, is that a crossbow? An arrow dipped in oil and set alight could have been shot from this weapon, sending a flaming arrow straight into the hydrogen-filled balloon. Are you suggesting that the crossbow was used deliberately?
Blimey, you're right! That streak of light in the photo looks just like an arrow, didn't it? Then the explosion of the balloon, it was...
Very likely the result of a flaming arrow from this crossbow igniting the hydrogen gas inside it. No! Bang. Order! Order! Counsel, this is an extraordinary supposition. Welcome to Ace Attorney, Judge! If the aim was to cause the balloon to explode, the shooter could have used a gun, of course. However, there's an obvious reason why that would have been out of the question. The noise of the discharge, of course. That's right. By using a crossbow, the projectile could be fired at the balloon silently. Well, yeah, if someone had a gun at the exhibition grounds, you would have caused a real panic.
But with the big explosion, there was a very big panic anyway, no?
I don't like this. I should be pleased to have found a possible new explanation for all this, but something feels wrong.
Objection!
Do you understand the implications of what you're saying, my Nipponese friend? If a flaming arrow did indeed hit the balloon, then obviously it would have exploded. And if the birdcage appeared from the cloud of smoke that ensued...
What? Wait a minute! What are you really saying here? I don't get it. Was the birdcage beamed up into the sky after all? Or what? My goodness me!
Ah, now I understand. That's what that sinking feeling is about. I think there's a good chance that the birdcage was actually concealed inside the balloon all along. Well, I just hear that correctly, Counsel? There's no going back now. The horse is bolted. Let's assume, as I said, that the birdcage was hidden inside the green balloon from the start. On stage, when the experiment was started, the birdcage in the instantaneous kinesis machine disappeared in a cloud of smoke. At that moment, the flaming arrow was fired from the ground, causing the green balloon to explode and drawing the attention of the spectators to the sky above their heads. From amid the smoke, the hidden birdcage then appeared to fall down and crash into the crystal tower. I think you all agree it's scientifically plausible. Wait, did I just say scientifically? I think he said it's entirely plausible that what I've described is the real truth behind the miraculous experiment carried out that day. Good grief!
Objection!
This is ludicrous. What you described is no science experiment. It's child's play. A contemptible display of stage magic.
Both Mr. Sholmes and Iris said the experiment was a scientific impossibility, in which case, this is the only way to explain what happened that day. And in any case,
the victim's body was found inside the birdcage in the Crystal Tower. If the instantaneous kinesis did not take place, how do you explain that? If I may put in a word as a man of magic myself, such apparent discrepancies can easily be explained by some simple deception.
juror number 3.
All that would be needed is a doppelganger, someone who looked very similar to the victim, Mr. Asman. And having this other man appear on stage in front of the show is a body double! Yes, of course. So in fact, Mr. Asman must have been inside the birdcage that was concealed inside the balloon from the start.
Objection!
You are really letting this get away from you, Ryunosuke.
That balloon would have been filled with hydrogen. Anything hidden inside it would have been scattered to the four winds when it was exploded. No one would ever have embarked on such a risky venture. Not necessarily. The explosive force of the balloon gas would very much depend on the mixture ratio.
Juror number 4?
Fine balloons are rarely filled with pure hydrogen, but a mixture of other gases, such as helium as well. Helium on its own doesn't explode, but by controlling the gas mixture ratio, the explosive force can be altered.
The mixture ratio?
Obviously, the victim's body would have suffered some burns that would be unavoidable. But not to such extent as to render the whole obscene charade impossible.
What the fuck? So everything that happened can be explained, logically and scientifically. The explosion that engulfed the stage at the start of the experiment was no accident. It was all part of an elaborate reception, to make it appear that instantaneous kinesis had occurred.
Well, goodness me.
And if we accept that is what happened, it means that the victim, Mr. Asman, was never present at on the public experimentation stage to begin with.
Nah.
In short, he couldn't have been killed by the defendant, who was on stage in full view the entire time.
Ah!
This will be very hard for the prosecution to counter. Lord Van Sykes can credibly maintain that Professor Harebrayne is a suspect now. Harebrayne's pissed, isn't he? Yep. Mr. Naruhodo, I appreciate your efforts, thank you. Professor? But you can stop now. Just keep your mouth shut, please. Just keep your mouth shut, please!
What's all this about, Mr. Harebrayne?
I, Albert Harebrayne, hereby confess that it was me who stabbed Mr. Odie Asman. Yes, it was me, with my faithful friend and partner, Andrew the Screwdriver. I don't think this is going to be the thumbnail, but I want to save this for personal posterity. What are you doing?
Order! 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 Defendant, explain this on confession.
Objection!
Professor Harebrayne, what are you talking about? It's what I've said all along! I must protect my hypothesis in my precious machine! You stand there and claim it was all a trick, all an elaborate prank. Where's your proof? No, you have to examine the machine if you wanted to prove it, or then it would all be over. My beautiful hypothesis would be laid bare. I mean, the indignity of it! It's clear that you drew the plans for the experiment, but you didn't actually build it. It's quite conceivable that you were duped, Professor. If you just let me, I can prove... Barak!
Yes?
I'll cooperate. I'll do whatever you say. I swear it. So please, ensure that Special Dispensation for Scientific Equipment Act is adhered to and protect my creation!
No. pray forgive the discourtesy of filling my hollow chalice at this critical juncture. Here's to my learned Nipponese friend.
What?
And his upcoming attempt to clarify the defense's position in light of the accused confession.
Shit!
Do you intend to firmly assert that the experiment was nothing more than a conjuring trick? Because the moment you do, the Special Dispensation for Scientific Equipment Act that protects the professor's invention will cease to apply. The prosecution will then demand a rigorous examination of the machinery in order to establish the truth. However, if you acknowledge the machine is genuine and instrumental in the victim's murder, any chance of investigating will be crushed, and the confidentiality of the professor's hypothesis preserved. Well, counsel, what's the defense's official position on this matter? What Professor Harebrayne, my client, actually asked of me was to prove that the explosion on stage was an accident and protect the secrecy of his hypothesis. But there's no way to do that without implying the professor's guilt. Is there? Or isn't there? Protect my client's life by asserting his innocence, or do I humble my client's request let's see him condemned? Either way, I can't avoid betraying his trust. You've been silent long enough. Isn't talking your trade, my learned friend? Or has all knowledge of English escaped your confused Nipponese mind?
Mr. Naruhodo!
There's no escape here. I have to make a choice. But it's impossible. It's an impossible one. I have to give up on something. But what? The defense asserts that the defendant's instantaneous kinesis machine was in fact... I feel like he was getting to the point there. If he never built it, then it may never work. So someone picking it apart may not even discover his hypothesis, assuming, of course, it's all right. But it's not. So... yeah, no, I'm keeping you from getting your head chopped off. So, on the hypothetical condition that the defendant confesses in the courtroom, what's the protocol, if any? The defense attorney's kind of effed up the A if you have your client confess. Like, it's really going to have to depend on the specific facts of the situation if you can recover from that. This is why you usually don't let your defendant testify, which luckily we can do because Fifth Amendment protects self-incrimination in criminal trials. Not only is the defendant not required to take the stand, the prosecution cannot have people intuit guilt from the defendant choosing not to take the stand. So that's why you always end up having people just never take the stand if you're the defendant, ever. Even if you're innocent, don't take the stand. Ah! Unfortunately, when it comes to that sort of situation, my answer is just going to boil down to it depends, which is the usual attorney answer. There's way too many surrounding facts that can give more context that may change the situation. A confession isn't out and out a death sentence for the case, but it's hard to recover from. No, I can't say it. My client places faith in me. I can't let him down. Ooh, who the hell's this? Is it Herlock? No, that's not nearly dramatic enough. I have a guess. What must I give up on? Is not the question you have to ask yourself here. It's what can I protect? Hello again, Mr. Naruhodo. It's been far too long. Hi! Susanoo-san! But what are you? Hiya! Ow! My first Susanoo takedown in 6 months.
There'll be time to talk later, Mr. Naruhodo. For now, we must concentrate on the task at hand. Which is working out not what I have to give up on, but what I can protect? Professor Harebrayne.
Yes?
Yesterday you told me that science is the pursuit of truth. Well, my job is to pursue the truth too.
Yes, of course.
And personally, I believe that you didn't stab Mr. Asman. I think you've come to realize something yourself too, haven't you? That your experiment and the machine you built with the victim are questionable. The truth behind that is what we both must pursue now.
My leg!
So, you finally opened your eyes. What? And as for you, Albert, you can't ignore this any longer. Having heard my learned friend's assertion, don't you have something to say?
Barrack!
Lord Van Sykes. Gosh, I've never heard him speak that way before.
In truth, there is one thing, something I remembered that's irrelevant.
What?
On the day it happened, just before I began the experiment, I saw a man near the stage. A man holding that crossbow.
I beg your pardon?
Professor! Did the man have any distinguishing features? What did he look like? Taller than me, and thinner than me, and straight hair, straighter and wider than mine. Let me see. One lens less than me too. A monocle, a rather established black monocle. But one thing in particular will help positively identify the man. You see, I know him very well. After all, he's the engineer who built my invention!
What?
He built the machine? That's right. Mr. Asman introduced me to him to me a year ago. He's a man by the name of Male Strongheart, or Enoch Drebber.
Enoch Drebber? Does this name mean something? Members of the jury seem flustered. Not a name any scientist wishes to hear. The man's an abomination.
Not a name any conjurer wishes to hear either. Who on earth is he?
I'm afraid this isn't the first tale of the nature that I've heard of in scientific circles in connection with that name. There's talk for other flamboyant experiments that turn out to be nothing but stage trickery in the end. Obviously, the rascal is after the government's research grant money.
When magicians are in need of money, I've heard of them resorting to these underhand tactics. Some acquaintances of mine with experience of such things have mentioned Enoch Drebber's name before.
The man is both an engineer and a magician. Yes, we're dealing with an unparalleled confidence trickster here. That's Enoch Drebber for you. Bitch!
So it's true then. My invention, my great machine, it was just a grand illusion?
Considering what we've just heard about Mr. Drebber's character, I'm sorry to say that sounds increasingly likely.
Even though no one else believed it, I wanted to. I wanted to believe that machine would function exactly as my hypothesis predicted.
That is why you were opposed to it being investigated, I presume?
I knew that if the machine was examined in detail, its construction would give away my hypothesis. Obviously, I didn't want that to happen. But at the same time, I knew if it was found out to be nothing more than a trick, than a work of deception, then everything I'd worked towards, all my research, all my dreams, my whole life would be over. I was terrified at the prospect.
So you really had no idea then, did you? About the true nature of the machine that was built, and the true nature of Mr. Drebber.
I never questioned anything. I didn't want to question it.
It's entirely possible that Mr. Asman and Mr. Drebber were working together to use you as a means of fraudulently acquiring the research grant money.
When I announced my invention to the crowds that day, it was the finest moment of my career. I pulled all the levers and turned all the dials in exactly the way Drebber had described. When smoke suddenly started billowing out, I panicked, and I didn't know what was happening. But I really don't know how the whole illusion was made to work. I don't know anything anymore.
Yeah, for being a scientist in the pursuit of truth, you didn't seem to have a very inquisitive eye. Let me confirm one final point with you, Professor. Do you now consent to the prosecution submitting the necessary paperwork to release your invention from the protection afforded by the Special Dispensation for Scientific Equipment Act?
Yes, please go ahead. I'm very sorry.
Tear that bitch up! Do. It would appear that we shall have to suspend proceedings for the remainder of the day now. Lord Van Zykes, my lord. The court has newly been made aware of another party whose involvement in this matter is critical. Yes, Mr. Drebber. Further information about the man, if possible, I should like... Gather information about the man, if possible, oh my god, messing up this sentence totally. Gather information about the man. If possible, I should like him served with a subpoena. With pleasure, my lord. Now, counsel for the defense. Yes, my lord. Stop fucking up. When we reconvene, I shall be looking for one thing and one thing alone from you. Evidence that the defendant is innocent of the crime for which he presently stands accused. I mean, I've harped on the burden of proof all the livelong day, so this is bullshit. I understand. Good. In that case, this court is adjourned until tomorrow morning. To be continued? Fuck.
Mr. Naruto!
Yes?
I'm so sorry. I was wrong. You were right. I tricked you. You trusted me. I dragged you into my mess. Oh, how did it ever come to this? I'm so sorry.
Did you really have no idea, Professor? About what Mr. Drebber was really up to, I mean? About what he was really constructing?
Naturally! The machine was the embodiment of my hypothesis. All my hopes and dreams. I had complete faith in it.
Alright. In that case, I won't see any more. Now, sadly, the murder accusation against you still stands, so we must do as much investigation as we can before the trial resumes tomorrow.
Well, thank you for doing so much for me.
Now you got some explaining to do, Susanoo. I'm so sorry for arriving late this morning, Mr. Naruhodo. Arriving late? Didn't you receive my postcard? I wanted to let you know when I'd arrive. Postcard? What postcard?
I hid it from you, Runo, so it would be a surprise. Well, did it work?
I was surprised, alright, especially when she threw me to the ground. Oh dear, I'm so sorry. I was just so happy to see you again that it sort of slipped out. Uh-huh. Maybe we could stick to more traditional displays of emotion in future.
Susie's train was late to London's Victoria this morning, you see? But we made the coachman really whip the horses hard so we didn't miss the whole trial.
I was watching from the gallery for a while, but in the end, I'm afraid I couldn't contain myself. Well, I'm glad you didn't.
Oh!
Having you at my side in court gives me the strength I need to win. So, I'm delighted to see you back in London. Oh, you're too kind, Mr. Naruhodo. I'm delighted to be here. I hope I can continue to be of service to you. Of course. So, what's brought you back? Did Professor make a Tobia not protest? Tobia? Toba.
Let's save all that conversation when we're back at home, shall we? You know, I've made one of my most special blends ever for this special occasion.
Oh, Iris, how wonderful. I can't wait. Okay, you better be fade to black. Damn it! Susanoo-san was back in London. It's hard to describe how happy that made me feel at the time, but despite my elation, our tale was about to take yet another extraordinary turn. To be continued? There you go. You did it. Right on time. Finally. Jerked me around for a couple of those scenes there. Alright. Now it's 2 hours. So let's go ahead and call that there. Thank you guys for joining me. It's been a lovely Thursday evening. I will be back tomorrow at 7 with more Barth the Blues excursions in Skyrim. So I hope everyone has a good night. I think Nick's still streaming Sifu. So let's go ahead and keep the party train rolling over there. Set that off. And I always end up doing the wrap-up before doing the raid. So here's the awkward 10 seconds where I just vamp, vamp, vamp. Thank you, everybody. Speaking of vamps, we already know one. We know two, actually. Good night!